There's a lot of theology actually that could be developed and unfolded out of the idea of money, the idea of currency, and how that relates to our task in the world. When Scripture says that man is to take dominion over the world, the word for go and subdue the earth, well, that word is the very same word that is translated conquer. So in Joshua 18, verse 1, Israel is a corporate Adam, and the literary structure of the book of Joshua is such that it is divided into 7 slots corresponding to the 7 creation days. And the 6th slot begins with the whole land was subdued before the children of Israel. The 4th slot has the sun being stopped in the sky. So whenever you have a potential creation week pattern, the most obvious correspondence will usually be in the 4th slot. So that's the one you want to check first. So in the 6th slot, we have the whole land being subdued before them. Israel is a corporate Adam. They've conquered the land. And so in some way, they've fulfilled the so-called dominion mandate. So the question is fundamentally, how is the dominion mandate going to be fulfilled apart from the fall, given that bloodshed is something which comes out of the fall? And I think the answer to that question lies in the notion of tool making. So I've talked about this before. Tool making and creativity is an expression of dominion in an even greater way and a more perfect way than warfare is an expression of dominion. Warfare is an expression of dominion because warfare fundamentally is a contest over whether one or another people will acquire effective control over whatever it is that they're fighting about. But what does it mean to really acquire effective control over a thing? It means that you know that thing well enough and you understand its inner workings relative to everything else well enough that you're able to shape it and cause it to produce more effects than were initially apparent. So, raw silicon is not immediately going to produce computer wiring. You need to understand it to a certain degree and you rewire it in that way. And that energy is directed and expressed in a very sophisticated and highly ordered way that reveals man standing as a creator under and with God. We can see the correspondence between tool making and warfare in a couple stories in the early part of the historical books. So in the book of Judges, we see that Israel defeats one of their enemies. I don't remember which one it is, by fighting with agricultural tools. So they don't have any. All the steel has been, or all the iron has been taken from them. They can't make any weapons of warfare, but they fight with agricultural tools and win. Same thing happens in the book of Samuel. Also in Isaiah, in the Messianic age, we're told not that swords and spears will be destroyed, but that they'll be turned into plowshares and pruning hooks. And what tools are is they're instruments of creative development. Now, how does creative development relate to the notion of money or wealth? First thing I want to note here is that the word for wealth that is used in Deuteronomy is actually the same word that's sometimes translated army. Now, we don't usually think of these things as closely connected, but they're actually quite closely connected. The most obvious connection that we can raise in relation to the inheritance of the land is, how does Israel first inherit the first slot of land? Well, they actually buy it. Abraham buys land from those who already live in the land of Canaan. Later, they conquer the land. But we see already that there's this kind of correspondence between the use of wealth and then the use of one's energy in relation to warfare and forcible conquest in the conventional sense of that word. What happens when you utilize tools to produce certain effects and you reshape things to produce certain effects is it increases the value of that which is produced. It's the same raw material, but it's going to be of increased value because you poured more of yourself into it. Now, in the ideal state of things, we value the very same things that God values. And what God values is things according to their perfect form. So when we are in that state of mind, we direct our energies in such a way that things are glorified according to their divine intentions, which become one with their human intentions. And so God made all things through the Logos. We are all created in the image of the Logos, and we become partners with the Logos in developing and molding and shaping the world, which means it's of higher value. And we take a tithe of that and we contribute it to the tabernacle. Because what that does is it expresses the reality that all good things are from God. The raw material in which we are working on is from God, and the power by which we work on it is from God. So we usually think of money as expressing our potential to make ourselves comfortable. So this is why I think people find the notion of, I made a video on this. People can't imagine a reason why an individual Christian could be rich and for that not to be a sin. And that's because they're thinking of wealth only in terms of the ability to make oneself comfortable. And indeed, you can make yourself more comfortable to an extent if you're very, very wealthy. But that's not the primary sense of wealth. Wealth expresses your capacity to change things in the world. And if you got $50 billion, you can only make yourself so comfortable, but you can sponsor all kinds of projects in the world. You can influence and shape the world in different ways. And so that's why the glory of God is described as riches. Paul speaks of the riches of God's glory. Well, and that glory is the power by which God subjects all things to the feet of Jesus in Philippians chapter 3. So we see it has this sense of being an active power to change and shape things. That's what glory and wealth is really all about.